want to just talk about this tension between the fear of direct democracy that Madison gleaned from the experience of the Roman Republic, and this notion of direct democracy in the 21st century today. We live in a very different period where you could almost argue that it's very, very difficult for government to lead the people or to receive the consent of the government if polls, electronic polls, and public opinion seems to be almost instantaneous and to sway the decisions of elected officials. How would Madison come out on this whole notion of legitimacy today? Would he argue, as he did in Federalist 39, that well, maybe this whole notion of being governed by the people could somehow be taken to an extreme if he knew what the 21st century and technology would bring?
Well, I understand that Madison would be somewhat apprehensive about this issue because his idea of direct democracy was based off of the fact that the uneducated masses would form tyranny with the majority and attempt to attack a system of government for their personal interests. But as we see today in our Congress, this isn't the issue. As we've expanded on our system of representation to the extent that we choose our representatives to be educated, to be able to represent us and represent a higher role in society. So I don't think it's necessarily this idea of direct democracy where all citizens are involved. We choose citizens to represent us in this term.
Although the people in our nation do feel one way or another about different issues as they come out, they're still accepting the role of government and the government system that is in place today. So in that way, our government does have the consent of the governed because the system is still functioning and the people still are consenting to the system. They're still abiding by the social contract because the government is protecting their rights. Although issues are being swayed from left to right, it is through representation and through the people voting for those who have merit and follow their ideals, and that's the way in which they could get their issues changed. But the actual system of government, what we have now, this direct democracy, is what the people are still consenting to.
So if I may push you on that just a little bit, I'm wondering if we're making a distinction or a proper one between a form of government and the making of public policy. Who gets to participate in the making of public policy has changed. Has Republican government changed since the founding?
Well, we must realize that dating back to the Roman Republic, yes, we have changed. We've changed as a society. We've expanded our civic participation.
Finish that.
We've expanded our civic participation, as you pointed out earlier, with the media. Yes, so we have, the citizenry now has a further influence on public policy. I mean, our principles of republicanism are still highly intact. It's just our applications are now different because we're in changing times with different polity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, what a marvelous job you've done, and it's been delightful to have this conversation with you. Just a couple of points as we're in this conversation together. I would want you to think a bit more about the idea of monarchy and limited monarchy. Our British friends would argue that they are in fact a far more democratic society than we are, and whatever the source of the monarch's power might be, there is a sense that an executive above politics can be a source of liberty and justice. That a number of countries have adopted in having a non-political president. But I thought your arguments overall were quite persuasive and eloquently put. Thank you.
Well, I would echo what my colleague said. I think you took a very practical position on some of these issues. So, for example, when we talked about Congressman Bachmann in Minnesota and state's attorney generals, you took that out of the context of history and became very, very practical. And I think that's good. You study history so that we can improve the future, or at least we have a frame of reference to know what's likely to happen if we don't learn from the past. And I think you applied that in the modern world. I think you did a very nice job doing it.
Yeah, terrific job. I especially appreciated your interaction with us on the follow-up questions. It was a conversation. You were prepared. You know your stuff. I would hope that someday you can maybe complete the circle. Talking in your introductory statement about worrying about democracy and under the drafters of the Constitution, understanding the risk of democracy degenerating into autocracy, and yet when we get done with our questioning, you seem to be applauding the radical democratizing of the society and the open participation. Is there a problem? Does Rome have anything to teach us? In other words, all I'm suggesting is The question asks us to keep thinking about what we learned from and the warnings of the Roman Republic. We kind of got away from that into celebrating the very democracy that we started out being afraid of. So just a thought, what wonderful opportunity for us to have had this conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.